You guys are in for a treat this week. I have a very special guest in the studio, Emily. We used to work together in my previous corporate career. She was such a bright light of my time at my last job before I started my business. She became one of my very first clients. I count her as a dear, dear friend. She is such an amazing leader for women in the workplace, ambitious, high achieving women who are so freaking good at what they do. And yet they have, through their career, found themselves wearing a corporate mask. Emily is that person that helps people to take off and dissolve that mask so that they can be more fulfilled, more authentic, more themselves, and ultimately more successful. I can't wait for you to get into this episode. It's going to be such a treat. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bold Business Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest in the studio. Virtually, I just cannot wait to introduce you to Emily. Emily and I worked together in our previous lives in corporate. The last job I had before I started this business, I worked with Emily. I had the immense pleasure of getting to work with her. It was amazing. I just fondly remember our very first time meeting. We ended up actually going on a shopping spree for one of our clients, complete with champagne. And I think our friendship, our relationship was just cemented at that point. We had the time of our lives. So it's just so great to be back together again and for her to be able to share some of her wisdom. Our topic today is about, the corporate masks that we wear and why it is so important to remove them. This is such a deep topic. It's perfect for us to dive into during Scorpio season. And I just can't wait to introduce you to everything that Emily does. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really, really excited to be here. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time, so it's great that we're here now.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, so good. So let me give Emily a official introduction. I want you to know everything about what she does before we get into our juicy conversation. Emily intimately understands the exhausting reality of wearing a corporate mask. During her 20-year career in tech, leading sales and executive teams, she mastered the corporate game until burnout became her wake-up call. This crisis led her to discover human design, a framework that explained perfectly why she'd always felt out of alignment with traditional paths to success. As a certified stress and well-being coach, Emily uses an empowering and practical approach, plus human design, to help women break free from the exhausting cycles of perfectionism and people-pleasing. She knows that the struggles her clients face aren't personal failures, but part of a bigger pattern affecting high-achieving women. Emily's mission is to guide women in transforming their relationship with work and success. She empowers them to trust their natural wisdom, make confident decisions, and honor their unique energy as they create more success in their lives and career. Wow. And that's exactly what we need. It's like in a year like this year, I think a lot of us are looking around at our career, our lifestyle, our health, and we're really deeply reevaluating everything. So I think your message is such an important one, especially for those women out there or those people out there that are in corporate right now. So you guys are in for a treat today. So, okay, my first question, Emily, for you is what is your story and how did you get into this work? What led you to this?
Yeah, so I guess for me, my story started really early on in my childhood. So the reason that I kind of ended up in corporate was because of my dad. So my dad was a business owner, and I kind of remember going to the office with him, and I used to be sat there like shuffling paperwork around, pretending to take phone calls from clients, and I even set up a little office at home. I must have been around five or
Oh my
something.
God, so cute. Yeah.
So I was like, I want to be like that. I want to get into business. So my kind of natural path as I um, went through kind of school and all the rest of it, I ended up in corporate.
Mhm.
Um, which was great. So as I climbed up the ladder, so I'd started quite I started my journey quite low down out of university, and then gradually I climbed the ladder, and everything kind of looked perfect on paper. I was
Mhm.
ticking all the boxes. I was getting, all the different jobs. And but I always felt like something was really off. Like
Mm.
there was always something there that wasn't quite right, but I just kind of ignored it and just kind of carried on doing what I was doing. And I guess as I went into more bigger corporates, that feeling really kind of became a bit of a problem, and I almost felt like I was more of a just a number in a spreadsheet than anything else. So um that's when I decided to get out of the really big corporate space, and I went to a smaller company, which is where we met. um I know, and then you introduced me to human design, actually. And
Yes, I would just talk everyone's ear off about it. I was like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. Can I tell you about human design?"
yeah, exactly. And it was like a real eye opener for me, actually, because I'd always been quite interested in personal development in a more traditional sense that you see, kind of, personality tests, all this kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
none of that ever really felt congruent for me at all. So
Hmm.
when you introduced me to human design, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I remember the first session we ever did, it was in this really small hotel room.
Yes.
We had all these like post-it notes up, and you
Oh
were like
yeah,
really helping
sticky
me
notes were
delve
the
in
thing. I was
sticky
like,
notes,
so many sticky notes.
all yeah. And we were like bringing out my superpowers, but we were unpacking all the things that were wrong as well. So that was like my first kind of foray into human design, and it felt really good. And I remember we worked on boundaries to
Hmm.
start with when we first
Hmm.
started working together, and actually that's been great because that's stuck with me through to this day. The whole thing with boundaries, because I didn't
Yes.
have any, is now kind of stuck, so that was
Oh, I
great.
love it. I remember, and for people listening, I think our conversation around boundaries is very much around some of the open areas in your chart as well. Like you are,
Yeah.
I'll share your human design if you don't mind, a 2-4 generator, right? And having that two line needs boundaries. So anyone else out there who has a two line, it's like you have to have boundaries so that you can be in your creative genius and your creative process. And then the four line needs boundaries as well, because the four is not here to work with everyone. There's a very specific, kind of VIP exclusive group of people that are your people. And so having good boundaries can help you to, yeah, just be more successful. So I love that that was something that really landed.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. So everything was great for a while, but then what I wasn't fundamentally fixing was some of the kind of more deep rooted challenges that I had. So
Mm.
after a couple of years, everything was fine. I sort of went back to this place where I was kind of feeling frustrated and, generator frustrated.
Yes.
But I started feeling quite different to before. I it was a different kind of frustration. It was quite a deep thing. I almost became like a shadow of myself. I started to not feel anything.
Mm.
And I was like, this is different. I haven't had this before.
Hmm.
So I ended up in this conversation with someone that I worked with, and they did kind of trauma healing for people. So they offered to take me through kind of to kind of go back and map everything out from beginning to end, which I'd never done before.
Mm.
So we kind of met 30 minutes every week, and we really went back. So like childhood all the way through. It was super, super
Amazing.
interesting.
Yeah.
And we kind of mapped out stuff that I'd never really surfaced before because it was sort of hidden away. And that was like a real moment for me. It made me realize that actually I didn't want to go back to that. And we really started looking at kind of what were the things that were going to bring my energy back again. What was I passionate about? And that's kind of how this started, because I knew that I was always passionate about helping women. And I'd done that in various ways in a work context, and I was like, I really want to take this somewhere.
Hmm.
Um and I ended up on a real deep transformation journey for myself, and then coming out of that, I felt this real pull towards, do you know what, I can really take this and help other women who are struggling with a similar situation, similar things. So that's how everything came about, actually, through my own journey, and then the pull to help others with it.
Oh, I love that. That's so powerful. And it means that like you really get it, you know? Like when people talk about frustration in corporate not being seen, trauma healing, all of these things, like you really understand that because you've been through it yourself. And I love how that passion is fueling you in how you can help others. Now, you talk about the corporate mask. So tell us like what
Yeah.
is that and how can someone recognize that they're wearing, I love this I feel like it's a very visual, metaphor. What is the corporate mask? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so my definition of a corporate mask is very much, think of it like a choreographer persona, like to really fit into. It doesn't necessarily need to be a corporate world, it could be any world. So it's almost like so what it might look like is that you might be policing your emotions. You might be hiding emotions to sit in a certain situation. You might doubt your instincts. So in the corporate world, quite a lot, there's kind of, adhering to best practices or certain ways of being.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, instinctively, you might get a sense that actually you don't feel that that's right, but you almost mute it
Yeah.
down because
Yeah.
everybody else is around you is like, well, this is what we do and this is how we do it. So it could look like that. The other thing that's quite common in the corporate world is measuring productivity. So your worth can be really tied to, I've got all these things on my to-do list,
Yeah.
or I'm back-to-back meetings, so I'm really productive. So there can be a danger of actually attaching self-worth to that. So if you're not like super productive, and if you're not constantly busy, then therefore, you're not as good as the next person. So that can be another thing. But
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing that can happen with, or certainly my own experience, is it can start off as a survival strategy. So you're almost doing it to kind of protect yourself. But the problem with it is that after time, and it can take many years, it can actually become automatic. So what can happen is you end up losing touch with who you actually are. So it almost gets hidden away,
Mm.
and the cost of it can be that it can drain it, it'll drain your energy, it can stifle your creativity, and you can just end up in this cycle of perfectionism and people pleasing. So I guess that's the definition of what the corporate mask is. And it can really hold us back if we're not kind of, if we don't catch it.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you. And just thinking back to my corporate days, like it feels heavy, right? It feels heavy to be wearing this mask all the time and be like pretending that you agree with something that maybe you don't agree with or trying to be someone that you're not. Why do you think, like, how does this get created? Is it just like this hierarchy that's gets kind of reinforced in these rules around company culture? Like how do you think, is it top down? Is it just kind of everyone trying to keep their head down like the sheep, kind of all following each other? How does it
Yeah,
how does
yeah.
it get kind of created and reinforced, do you think?
So I guess from my perspective, I was thinking about how it started for me. So when it started for me, it was quite a playful thing. So it was kind of back in childhood, but it ended up being actually quite a strategic persona. So as I when I was working in some corporate spaces, it's very, very male dominated environment. So I'd be in meetings where I was the only woman, for example. So uh, it, and what tended to happen there is, as a woman, you kind of get labeled. So if you were emotional, you'd be kind of labeled as unstable. If you were
Mm-hmm.
too direct, it's like, oh well, they're aggressive. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's I guess it's something that evolves over time depending on the situations, but it just, it kind of can build up. So certainly for me in certain scenarios, and I saw, women and men and other people doing this in the workplace. They just weren't being themselves. Like they wouldn't say exactly what they think, or they, if they instinctively felt something, they wouldn't reflect that in a meeting, or they wouldn't speak up. And that's kind of how it started. And what you can see is, or what I certainly have seen, is that you can get praised for being professional or being level-headed, when actually what that means is you're being praised for something that you're not. So
Hmm.
so it's almost like this armor starts building up over time because of what you see and what you feel and how you act in certain situations,
Hmm.
and gradually that builds up and builds up.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of I noticed this phenomenon as well that often like when you're kind of at a certain level in terms of like management, etc., the mask is like really heavy. And then you see other people who may be more rule breaker or more maverick, like they can actually succeed, but it's very rare. And so it's kind of like I think
Mm,
people tend to like kind of navigate themselves towards sitting in the safe middle, even though perhaps being themselves, being more authentic and honest about what they think about certain deals or creative projects or whatever people in the team, etc., if they were actually more honest, they might actually end up doing better. Would you agree with that?
yeah, 100%. Because it's almost like, if people in the workplace are becoming disconnected,
Hmm.
then actually those superpowers that they probably have that they could bring in, whether they're in leadership or not, are actually not, are not being brought forward. So they're not able to bring those superpowers into the workplace in the first place. And I
Yeah.
think also as well, it's the definition of what success looks like can be very subjective depending on who you're working with, who, the kind of leadership of that organization, depending what it is. So it's also about how that narrative flows through an organization, and
Hmm.
also whether an organization is willing to, it to really push to help people
Hmm.
innovate and show them true selves as well, or if they're
Yeah,
even thinking about that in the first place.
yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's funny because like you and I were not exactly working at the most corporate of corporate places. Like we were working at, an very highly creative tech organization. So, you'd think that even, we would have more leniency, et cetera. But I don't know, for some reason that corporate world is so yeah, it just really dims. It kind of silences people, dims down their brilliance. And I know you can probably speak more to this as well. Like you, I'll just say, we're known as, a very like an amazing manager. Everyone wants to work for Emily, like you guys. Like I'm telling you, everyone's like, oh my God, can I please get on Emily's team? Like she's amazing. She's so you build your people up and you're encouraging and you train them and you teach them and you show them. And I think sometimes, as managers or as principals, like we have a big responsibility, and we want to protect people. We want to take care of them. So I know that was a big part of like me creating my business was like getting frustrated that I couldn't, support my people in the way I wanted to all the time because there's so many limits in corporate. Do you feel the same way? Like,
Yeah, definitely. And I guess for me, it comes back to, when you can take the mask off and when you can't, in what
mm,
scenarios. So there's going to be, there's going to be times when it's really going to serve a purpose well.
mhm,
Um, but actually for me now, it's, I try not to use it at all,
mhm,
in
yeah,
the ways that I work in, because it's really not helpful, and I don't want my light to be dimmed because I know I can help other people
yes,
through that. So I
exactly.
don't want that to be not there anymore.
Absolutely. And I know you like speak specifically to like the experiences of women in the workplace. I think it is different for men as well. There's a lot of, kind of ways that we have to bend and kind of shape ourselves to try to fit in to the majority culture. Like, why would you say that people should remove the mask? So you've spoken a little bit to the harm that it can cause. What can be the benefits and what have you seen like in your experience when you actually start removing the mask and start being more, yeah, more authentic, more honest, more brazen, shall we say?
I love that brazen, yeah. Um, I think now more than ever, it's whether people are aware of it or not, it's probably holding you back more than it is actually protecting you. So in my experience, especially as a generator in human design, I realized that I was constantly working against my natural energy all the time.
Mm,
I was very much in this hustle culture. So I was always acting as if I was like a manifestor type. So I was always pushing, trying to initiate. And actually that, I mean, that's okay for a while, but actually that's where for me I ended up kind of going in and out of this burnout because my energy just was completely drained. It was gone. That constant light that I always had that you talked about when people wanted to work with me,
yeah.
it just kind of went out. So um it to me it's almost like forcing a river to flow uphill
Mm.
with
Yeah.
and like why would you do that? I think the other thing as well that's quite interesting at the moment is with you know in the world of AI as well, which is a massive thing. I think it's really important that our uniqueness and as humans actually comes out.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you're kind of if you're masking up quite a lot, then and you don't have the opportunity to do that, then those superpowers that I keep talking about are being muted. So that real uniqueness of humanity is kind of not coming through so much.
Mm.
Um,
Such a good
and it
point. Hmm.
Yeah, and it can be really scary thing. I mean, for my process of like removing the mask, I've written a Substack piece on this because it was so deep. I think my analogy was it's like burning into my skin, and it was so comfortable to have this mask. It was actually really scary to start putting it off,
Yeah.
but um what was even scarier for me than that was actually knowing that I was going to get to the end of my career and had never been able to reflect my genius or my brilliance ever in my career. So that was worse than
Yeah.
trying to take
Yeah.
it off.
I think that's what a lot of people come to that point of like it's kind of this crossroads, right? This
Yeah,
crossroads of like, do I just accept what's happening and that I'll never be able to kind of fully express my true self and my because our career, we were there all day, 5 days a week and
yeah,
sometimes 6 days a week. It's like we're there all the time. So much of our energy is being poured into this aspect of our life. And if we don't feel that that energy is true, I think that's a big part, especially for generators and manifesting generators, that can lead to burnout. It's not only how many hours you're working, it's the quality of those hours. It's the quality of the relationships. It's the quality of, yeah, how real do you get to be? And the burden of the mask ends up, yeah, just you have to weigh it up, right? You have to weigh it up. So like
yeah,
what the costs and benefits and people in my world and your world have decided that the costs are too high. The costs are way too high.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah. So
definitely.
how can women specifically, but anyone as well, but how can we start to remove the corporate mask? Like what are some of those kind of practical first steps?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say is that it's definitely a gradual thing. Like, it don't just go and go, hey, I'm going to rip this thing off today and then it's gone, because that
Yeah.
isn't going to work. It's especially if it's been there for quite some time. It's like a gradual unpeeling, I would say for
Love
sure.
it.
So I guess the first step would be aware of bring awareness into the space as well. Just start to notice when you're wearing it. Like that will be the
Mm-hmm.
first thing, because if you can be aware of when you're actually wearing it, when as opposed to when you're being authentically you, that would be the first thing. Just like be aware of it.
Hmm.
Start looking at just jotting it down every day. At the end of the day, was I wearing it? Was I not? What did that feel like? What did that look like?
Hmm.
So that would be the first thing. And then the other thing is bring experimentation into play. So, but not in like a really critical high stakes thing. Just start really small with something minor. So, it might be just in a safe space, in a meeting or something like that, that just you start to give an honest opinion
Hmm.
from from your true self, from
Hmm.
your authentic self, rather than what you think people want to hear. So it could be that.
It's like
um
less censoring of yourself, right?
yeah,
It's kind of like,
exactly.
okay, like what do I really, am I just agreeing with this because I think I have to to please my manager, or can I make space to be more truthful?
Exactly, exactly. Or am I just saying this to please this client or whatever it happens to
Yeah.
be? The other thing that I see quite a lot is people starting a conversation saying, "I'm sorry, but." Like,
Yeah.
so,
This is also so British, can I just say?
yes, it is. I'm sorry, but it's
Yeah.
like, why are you sorry for
We're
having an
always
opinion?
apologizing here in
So,
England.
yeah,
Constantly.
exactly.
Sorry,
So,
sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can I get in front of you in the queue? I'm sorry.
Yeah, constantly
So,
sorry.
yeah, that would never work because queues are a different thing. But yeah, but just stop doing that.
Hmm.
Like, don't apologize before you share an opinion. Like, why are
Hmm.
you sorry? It's your opinion. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it's just minor things like that. And I think the other step is finding a community or support, finding allies, because in order to do this, it can, as I mentioned, it can be feel quite different, and it can feel a bit scary. So there are a lot of other people out there who are struggling with the same thing. So just find support, find an ally, get into communities. The surprising thing for me as I got into more and more communities is, there's so many people struggling with the same thing.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of spaces where you could go and talk to other people, or even find an ally at work. There'll be plenty of people probably in the
Hmm.
workplace
Like
or
you and me,
anywhere
we
else.
found each other at work.
Yeah, exactly,
And you, me, and
exactly.
Julie as well. Exactly. I recently
Exactly.
had Julie on the podcast. So Julie Fideli used to work with us as well. Her episode is one of our most popular episodes this year. Make sure you go and listen to that as well about the portfolio career. But yeah, I met so many incredible people working in corporate. So that is my biggest gift that I think that corporate gave to me was communication skills, but also just meeting really high quality, amazing, ambitious, creative, wonderful people. So, even if you don't love the structure, or if it seems unfair, maybe the process or the promotion, whatever it is, like there are some great people. So yeah, don't overlook that and don't hide your light, right? Because then you never know where that could lead to after, because no job is forever. So
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
build your network.
Exactly.
I love that's a really
Exactly.
great action point for sure. Love
Yeah. And I guess that the last thing, which is the thing that we started on first as well, don't apologize for having boundaries.
it.
I mean, that's we started on boundaries first of
Yes.
all, because I've seen a lot of people in the working world that have no boundaries whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Can you give it an example? I feel like we should give it like a really good example of, yeah, when you see that people have no boundaries in the corporate world, what does that look like? How does it make you think about them as well? Because I think people think that they're being helpful, like, oh, I'll gain brownie points by just saying yes and being a yes man all the time. And
mhm.
actually I don't think it always works. It's not actually good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess an obvious one that I see quite a bit is if for example somebody says, "Oh, can you just do this thing?"
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So you'll already have a absolutely packed schedule because, productivity output. And then someone will ask you to take on this thing, and someone go, "Yeah, I can do that." But actually what can happen is that they could then take on that thing and end up working, an evening or a weekend to do it because they've taken on the extra commitment,
Hmm.
or they're not thinking about the trade-off of the thing that's really valuable that they need to do because they're doing this other thing instead.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's one example that happens a lot. Or people take on extra pieces of, extra things that actually they don't really have the space for, or even worse, they don't even have the energy for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they can end up absolutely exhausted, stressed out, and then then their productivity. The irony is their productivity then lapses off because they've
Hmm.
taken on too much or
Yeah.
taken on something that they're not energized for.
It's such a catch 22, It's like you
Mm.
think you're going to win points by saying yes, but then you're right. Your overall productivity goes down because you're exhausted or you're not able to do it to the standard, etc. I remember a little trick that I learned in some of my first jobs in London, like in my early 20s. I was like, if someone, because when you're young, especially, people just pile on, right? Like oh, you can take
Yeah.
this and this and this, and because they think you have no choice. And so I would go to my manager and say, so I have space to do three things. I have 10. Which one would you like me to drop? Like,
I love that.
and I make
I
it
know.
their problem. And it always worked.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Don't give them a choice of the 10, then for the
No,
three.
it's the 10 is not an option. It's the three, right? So which one am I putting down? You tell me, you're the manager, right? So yeah, it really worked. Sometimes you just have to advocate for yourself, and it's not personal, right? It's not
Yeah,
like you're doing this to me. It's more, you can have a very professional conversation about boundaries, and you give them the options, and all of the options need to be like something that you actually want, but you define the options as part of setting healthy boundaries.
definitely. And I think the important thing for me was actually, this is where human design came in, because when
Yes.
I really understood my type, my profile, my open centers where I was open condition, I could understand how to catch that. And things would be coming into my energy, but what I did with them was the difference, as
Yes.
opposed to absorbing them.
Yes, just like, okay, I got to do it all. And you make such a good point there, because I know you have an open root center, right? And that's a
Mm,
major thing I see with lots of people with burnout, is the open root center, because it's like you want to, the root center is drive, motivation. It's our get up and go energy. And so having it white means that that get up and go is not always on. It's not always consistent. So piling too much on yourself can really lead to adrenal fatigue, burnout, all these things. And so I love that you're such a good example of this, of like how to say no, essentially. And a lot of people struggle with that. So especially women, I think, in the workplace.
they definitely do. They
Yeah.
definitely do. And the other thing for me was actually, because I have an open solar plexus, was holding on to other people's emotions about things.
Oh yeah,
That
speak more
was
to that, because I think that's a like a subtle, insidious thing that happens in the workplace that we don't think about, is the emotional labor that, again, especially women are doing. And it's like, we're doing it at home, we're doing it in relationships, we're doing it at the workplace. Like, oh my God. Yeah, speak to that. What does that look like at work?
yeah. So as I really, and it affected everything, actually, not it's homework, everything, but actually, when I had situations at work where somebody who was more senior than me really felt we should do something, so we really need to do
Mm,
this thing, and they might get very, very kind of emotionally invested in it, then that will then become partly something, my issue. I would like hold on to that and go, okay, so they're really emotionally invested in that, so I'm going to absorb that, and now I need to be. And then, coupled with the open route as well, I'd be
mhm.
like holding on to these external emotions and feelings in the workplace, and then be trying to go really, really fast to fix it.
I gotta fix
So,
everything. I knew this was
yeah.
wrong, and now I've got to fix it all.
And then exhausted afterwards, because it
Yeah.
was completely, I wasn't listening to my body and my energy about what was right and wrong.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so subtle, I feel like, when that starts to happen. So like you said, building that awareness is just so key. So on the positive side, like once you do start removing the mask, what can people visualize? What are the benefits? How does your life or your work change when you start to remove that mask? Because I know there's a lot of fears that people have there, but what is the upside?
Yeah, so I guess for me, that energy level that has created this constant kind of burnout for me over time. And as I said, it got quite bad a few years back. The biggest thing for me was that lifted completely. That lack of, I don't know, lack of me, for want of a better word,
Mm,
that completely went. My energy started coming back. The other thing that I started focusing on, I did a lot with kind of energy tracking, so looking at patterns of, when was the best time of day for me to work on more strategic focused things versus things that were, I classed as like lower value, like admin and that kind of stuff.
mhm.
um so for me, as I started shifting, and I started kind of pulling off the different layers, and it is really complicated. I'm not saying this stuff is easy,
Yeah.
but actually that deep exhaustion that I'd had, and that, I mentioned earlier, almost like a shell of myself, that just slowly started lifting. And my energy levels now are just, probably where they've never been before, because I
Amazing.
try to, I check in more about what I'm doing. If I do have to do something that's draining, then I'll do a practice afterwards to, to get my energy back.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever that happens to be, I might do grounding, I might do this, that, or other, because I'm much more aware of, how not to hold on to some of this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been really, really helpful in the process. And it is a continual process. It's never over. It's what
Yes,
I would
yes.
say.
It's a constant like emptying out of the energy. And you have a lot of white centers. So even though you're a generator, you have a lot of access to creative energy in the sacral, you have, a lot of white centers. And so you are not absorbing, but you're taking in a lot of energy. So I love that how human design has really helped you to like manage, like you said, energy management, supporting yourself, like doing all the things. It's really wonderful to hear that, like, you can heal corporate burnout and you can remove the mask and still be, and not still, but be more productive than ever, more sparkly than ever, more energetic than ever. I mean, this is a really positive message that I hope everyone listening really really gets, because sometimes I think it can feel like you're just part, like you said, you're a cog in the machine, you're just a number, and there's
Mhm.
nothing you can do about it. This is just the way that it is, and you are one of our shining examples that that's not true, that you can thrive, not just survive. And I'm very inspired by you, and I know everyone else will be as
Oh,
well. Yeah, it's
thank
amazing.
you.
So are there any other kind of practical actions that you want people to take right now? And then I'm going to ask you how people can work with you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of practical things. So just building in kind of micro moments. So, just doing a check-in before meetings. How are you going into that meeting? And
Mm,
then also afterwards as well. And just think about, from an energy tracking perspective, looking at, after a meeting or at the end of the day or whatever kind of works, is just looking at, what energized me today, what drained me, and just starting to make a note of those things, so that you can look at patterns as you go forward. That's really, really helpful, because, as I mentioned, a lot of this stuff we're just on autopilot. We've done it for
yeah.
so
Yeah.
long, it's like,
Yeah.
you
It
don't even know
becomes
you're doing it.
like a pattern of behavior that's like very unhealthy, right? And so you're asking people to like start disrupting that and doing it like really mindfully.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is what I call the pause practice. So rather than immediately saying yes, someone asks you to do something, just take a pause and say, I'll come back to you.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
it's an easy thing to do, just to try and minimize the things that we're just auto saying yes to. And if it's the right thing, then say yes. But if it's something that potentially is going to drain your energy or whatever it happens to be, then, just taking a pause and thinking about that as well.
I love that.
um
The pause practice. That's such a good
yeah,
one. I need a
exactly.
t-shirt with that on it, especially because I'm emotional authority. So I would always like just jump to be like, yes, whatever you want, but no, like being able to say, I'll get back to you is probably, I think, one of the most powerful phrases that you can say in life, essentially.
Yeah, and it might be
Yeah.
the next day,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
as well. I know.
Yeah. Mhm.
um the other thing, I mean, we already touched on this, is the no apology. So not saying I'm sorry in front of everything.
Yep. Yep.
Rather than, there's other ways to say it. And also the big thing is just, which has been really challenging for me, is just practice being imperfect. This is going to be messy and it's not perfect, but actually it's important to, not obsess over that.
Hmm.
So that would be the other thing. That's
I
probably been
love
the
it.
hardest thing for me, actually, experimenting and becoming imperfectly messy.
Yes, yes. And it's so crazy that we do this to ourselves. Like we think we have to be perfect and we don't necessarily hold other people to that standard, but for some reason we think we have to hold ourselves to this
Yeah.
standard of perfection
Yeah.
and it's just so unrealistic, unnecessary, and uncomfortable. So I love that you are bringing that message forward. Yeah, very important. Love it. So, how can people work with you? I know that you have a free gift that you're offering as well. So, tell us about
Yes.
all the juicy
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so there's a few ways to work with me. So really from my journey, I did it would be really helpful to have a insights report into looking at how people can manage their energy and how they can work with some of this. So I have that. It's almost like an owner's manual for kind of energy tracking, if you
Oh my
like.
God,
So
incredible. Does it include any human design or is it more around just like pure energy tracking?
it's yes, it is fundamentally based on human design, that particular.
Ooh, so
So
good.
yes, I have that. I also offer strategic, so for people that want more direct support, because that's very much kind of self-learning, you would interact with it yourself. I also offer strategic coaching sessions as well if people want to get a bit more deeper into these things with me.
Yes.
And I have a newsletter where I provide regular insights into some of the areas that I've talked about today. And there's also a free ebook that is available for people that they can download to support this series that we're doing now. So
Oh, amazing. I love that. So you guys can get your free ebook right away. The link will be in the show notes so that you can start this journey of removing this corporate mask. I just think this is, it can be life-saving. Like this is energy saving, well-being, health saving. This is life-saving stuff. So I'm so appreciative for you, Emily, for your time, for your creativity, for your passion for this. Everyone who comes into contact with you is so lucky that they get to because you truly just have such a big heart for people and I know that you want the best to come out and that's why everyone has always been clamoring to work with you. So I'm excited that more people get to work with you now. So
oh, thank you.
fabulous. Yes, definitely. So thank you for coming. Again, everyone, follow Emily on Substack, on all of the things. Make sure that you sign up and grab her free ebook as well. It's a really good one. And yeah, we will catch you later. Have a great rest of your week. Start removing your corporate mask. You are going to see massive benefits. Thank you. And thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.